four offline participators are present in this auditorium. So I'm like to call the names and reconfirm that they are present or not. So the names are Dr. V. Vinodini, KPR College of Art, Science and Research, Coimbatore. Next one is Dr. Balwinder Singulati and Anushka Priya, PGPA student, CIMP. Next, Amit CA, Finiland Jain Initiatives, Patna and Delhi. Next one is the Anand Kumar Singh, GM Biada, Hazipur. So I would like to start the session with the online presenter. So the first presentation is about CSR partnership for achieving SDG 17 in India, a systematic mapping review. So for presenting this, I would like to join Mahima Singh, Dr. Anjali Sharma, Department of Humanities, Social Science, Graphic Era, deemed to be University, Dehradun, Uttarakhand. So the podium is yours, sir. I like to chair Razdan Sarim sir and Vinod sir to move on to the next session.
Yeah, good morning everyone. Thanks for this opportunity to me and Professor Vishnu. So without much ado, we can begin with the session. So we can have the first presenter to begin with her presentation.
Given the time frame and the number of presentations, we have decided that it will be a 15-minute kind of interaction or engagement with each presenter. So let's say around 12 minutes you can make your presentation, and we are going to keep 3 to 4 minutes at best for question answer session. So Dr. Mahima, if you are going to present, so you keep your slides and your presentation with keep this time frame in mind. Okay, so you may start now.
Respected delegates, professors and fellow researchers, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, we can see your slide. You are audible as well.
Good morning to all respected delegates. I, Mahima Singh, under the supervision of Dr. Anjali Sharma, would like to present my study titled CSR Partnership for Achieving SDG 17 in India, a Systematic Mapping Review. I sincerely thanks to all the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Today, I will briefly talk about these particular components of my paper, for example, like introduction, objectives and scope, research methodology, results, case evidence from India, limitations, and finally the conclusion and recommendation. Moving towards the introduction, CSR in India has evolved from simply philanthropy to structured part of corporate governance. Globally, CSR is seen as a pathway to sustainable development, helping companies balancing economy's goals with social and environmental responsibilities. The major turning point for India was the Companies Act of 2013, which we all know about the CSR. Under the section 135, that the companies must spend at least 2% of their average net profits. So when I am talking about the SDG 17 partnership for the goals with relation to the CSR, this paper focuses on the goal which emphasizes the partnership and the collaboration. So SDG 17, like we know, highlights that sustainable development cannot be achieved by government alone. It requires the participation of the community and civil society, private companies, corporates, academia, even the local communities, the local people around. India policy environment also encourages such partnership. So we'll be moving forward with my paper. The objectives and the scope of this paper was, the main objective of the research is to systematically map the research and the review scholarly literature of CSR partnership in India to understand how these partnerships supports rural socio-economic development. So with regard to the SDG 17 and CSR, I am taking the key aspect, the key theme is a rural development. I have used bibliometric analysis using Scopus, and the visualization of research was done with the VOSViewer software. Case evidence from India has also been taken to know the ground level reality with respect to the bibliometric analysis. This paper examines the stakeholder collaboration linkages between CSR and SDG 17 and also identify the gaps in rural development literature, because CSR is being studied, SDG is being studied, but is it being representative by the rural development? Does the life of the people impact through these CSR projects? The study aims to interpret how CSR partnership contributes to rural development and socio-economic upliftment in the society in India, offering both academic mapping of CSR and SDG linkages and practical insights into how such collaboration foster inclusive socio-economic growth in rural India. The study also looks the pattern of collaboration such as corporate government partnership, corporate community alliances, and collaboration collaboration with the NGOs, while also identifying the gaps. Moving towards the research methodology, this study used a mixed method approach because I have used a bibliometric analysis for to conduct the recent trends, and then secondly the literature of CSR report sustainable disclosure for the review. Third, the case studies from the India I have included to connect with the real world theory. The inclusion criteria focused on CSR initiatives related to the SDG 17 and rural development, especially those showing measurable socio-economic impact. Identification of the studies via databases. So I have used Prisma, and this also tells how I move forward to the Scopus database, how it is being curated. So the bibliometric search used the key terms such as corporate social responsibility, SDG 17, and rural development. These were the three keywords that is being used, out of which it resulted to 4,826 articles. The time period was between 2013 to 2025. 2013 because this was the period when the CSR was mandated in India and the act was being released. So this is the keywords and how it is being curated. Publication trends over time. The publication trend shows. So this is the map that is being curated with the help of bibliometric analysis. How this trend shows a sharp increase of research after 2014 and again after 2020, which is the post-pandemic session. The growth reflects India rising focus on sustainable and inclusive development during the post-pandemic period. It also shows that CSR and rural development have become important areas of interest for both scholars and the practitioners. So second was this keyword co-occurrences. The keywords was used was corporate social responsibility, sustainable development, rural development. As expected, terms related to environment were more visible, and the work on environment and livelihood was more rather than the development of the rural people. Notably, partnership, stakeholders, and innovation of rural areas, rural emerged as a hub terms, underscoring the collaborative nature of the CSR project. Then the third I looked forward was the collaboration pattern, because we are talking about the SDG 17, which is the goal of partnership. So I wanted to know about how these institutions or the universities or academicians, corporates, they are partnershiping between the research on CSR projects and how it is impacting the life of the people. The co-authorship analysis revealed distinct patterns of collaboration among sectoral stakeholders. Many publications listed universities and corporates co-authors, indicating direct engagement with the academia and the industries of CSR. It has also been shown that Ministry of Rural Development and Ministry of Environment was also been partnership with the universities and with the corporates while doing the research to create such projects. Moving towards the case evidence from India, while bibliometric analysis provide a macro level understanding of research patterns and thematic linkages between CSR partnership, SDG 17 concerning rural development in India, it equally important to conceptualize these findings through real world applicants. So to know this whether the implementations is being implanted on the real world, I curated 5 of these case studies. These case studies demonstrate how CSR partnership contribute to rural development and their socio-economic upliftment in India. It also outlines the project core initiative and partnership models and alignment with the SDG 17. First case that I have been taken is, I'm so sorry. First case that I have been taken is this Mahindra and Mahindra project. So these cases were taken on the basis of that these projects should be a corporate based project, but it should be in collaboration with either the government or either the community, so that it shows that SDG 17 has been implanted with respect to the CSR projects and is also helping the people around them. So this project Haryali was made to the made to support tribal farmers and their families to enhance the biodiversity. Not only it is like a project that is helping in the environment, but also helping the tribal farmers and their families. The partnership directly enhances the implementation of these climate change and the life of the people. Second project is the ITC project of watershed development. Watershed development, its core initiative was to enhance the irrigation efficiency and boost overall agriculture productivity. It also helped the people around in the help of a large-scale community-led initiative focused water conservation, soil health, and rural empowerment. Collaboration closely was local farming communities with the various government bodies, and especially to the sustainable water management system. The third project was Reliance Bharat India Jodo Foundation, Reliance Foundation Bharat India Jodo. So the basic idea of this project was to make The basic idea of this project was to aim the bridge between the urban and rural people, which divides by the empowering marginalized communities, especially small farmers, through sustainable agriculture, water management, and livelihoods. So this project directly connects with the Atmanirbhar Bharat, and it works with the various government bodies with the help of Village Social Transformation Foundation in Maharashtra that create model villages. This initiative directly supports SDG 17 by leveraging multi-stakeholder collaboration to drive its large-scale rural transformation efforts. It aims the self-help groups and gram panchayats and youth groups to create the empowering communities of collective action. It helps by utilizing digital platforms so that the Reliance Foundation Information Services connects partner nationwide and link rural communities and urban communities. Third project I have used is Project Shakti, which is created for the small rural communities women to empower them. This project is called Shakti Entrepreneur, which is also known as Shakti Ammas. So this project, Hindustan Unilever Limited, the initiative is to participants have developed skills in selling and negotiation communication, while also gaining the confidence of fostering a strong entrepreneurship mindset. They are creating entrepreneurship mindset in a very rural level, so that the women over there also know how to connect and negotiate with people and create a good livelihood opportunities for them. Next, last project I have used is Project Samudaya. This project takes all the sectors that is being shown in a bibliometric analysis, which is agriculture, education, health, infrastructure, livelihood, and water, sanitation, and hygiene. It empowers community to identify the challenges, develop solution, and implement then with support from the Samudaya team fostering. So they help people to know about these, how to be them as an economic and socially developed. This initiative partners the NGOs and state, government, and local communities to knowledge the institutions. Next, this is the limitation of my study, as this study is limited to the bibliometric analysis, which is solely dependent on the Scopus Index publication, and the choice of the time is being used, so it is limited to the era of 2013 to 2025 papers only. While the paper examines the CSR initiative, it only represents the set of high visibility programs, and it only solely relies on the secondary literature. So we can say that findings cannot be generalized for all the CSR projects and activities that is being happening in India. These are the conclusion and recommendations, and all I can say is that if we are talking about the Viksit Bharat 2047, it is important to know that CSR can be really helpful for that, but keeping in mind that it should also know that how is it impacting the lives of the people, and not only the budgeting or how much CSR funding can be used. So this is all about the PPT. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was a very thoughtful, provoking presentation. Now we have the question and answer round.
You presented and well within time and very crisp kind of presentation. So a few questions from my side, and then Dr. Rahman will be asking certain questions.
Yes,
after this bibliometric analysis, you were able to, you should have been able to find some research trends. What are your research trends? I could not see. I could see only the case studies. So after that,
Sir, yes, sir.
yeah, because this time period from 2013 to 25 that you have covered. So, what are the, if you can comment on research trends, or particularly some of the areas where research on CSR has been high or low, what could be your recommendation for the coming scholars who want to develop their work on your study? Yeah.
Sir, so while working on the bibliometric analysis, the research trends move forwards to the academicians, more into, like, it has been seen that more universities are into working on the CSR projects to know about the CSR budgeting. The lack that I found while reading all those analysis was there's a gap that the impact of the people lives, that these projects are impacting the people, in what sense, is not being shown. What is being shown is the budgeting. What is being shown is how much money is being used in the project, where from the money is being came, what kind of partnership is being done. But the basic grassroots level, which is a life of people, does that project impacted the life of people, was missing. So that was the gap, and that can be studied. The academicians can study that thing, and in collaboration with the community, or in collaboration with the corporates. So that was a gap that I found, and the publication trends move towards the budgeting more rather than the impact of the people.
Any indication on the sectors on which CSR money is being spent? Could you find research
CSR
trends?
money, yes, sir. So CSR money is more spended on the agriculture sector, and a little bit on the education sector, which is like less on the rural people lives. One more thing, sir, I found out is that the more money is being used in the urban areas rather than in the rural areas. For example, I am working on a rural development sector, so I have seen that the CSR projects that is being conducted, or is currently working on, is mostly in the southern states, which is Maharashtra, which is already developed. Rather, we know that Uttar Pradesh is the biggest rural, more rural communities live in the Uttar Pradesh, but the projects in Uttar Pradesh is less than the projects in Maharashtra. So that is a little bit of concern, that if we are talking about the rural development, we should also focus on the areas which is really behind, like which is really in the rural perspective, rather than the urban area which is already developed.
If you had attended, or perhaps you were there in yesterday's session, so there also this particular thought came to us, that the spending for Bihar or for Northeast, the Seven Sisters Northeastern states, is quite low as far as CSI is concerned. So in a way, you are also trying to reflect the same thing. That's all from my side. Now Dr. Rajdan will have his reflections.
Yeah, hi, Dr. Mamta. It was a pleasure listening you, and quite an insightful presentation in terms of the state that you have chosen. So, since your the topic of your research is mentioning about achieving SDG 17 in India, but all the case studies that you have taken were taken from UP. So, we would like to justify why are you like your area of study was confined to a state, but your topic is mentioning India. So, if you can give that justification. And the second question is that after the amendment in the CSR Act in 2019 and 21, there was a concerted shift towards technology to be brought into the CSR interventions. So from the charity to more becoming an enabler in the development ecosystem. So CSR has taken that role upon itself to bring in more technology-driven solutions. So very simple two questions, like would like to change the topic and make it like a case study from UP. And which among these 5 cases you think you found like maximum input was given through the tech-based solutions?
So for the first thing, I'm sorry, I really didn't know that it is basically for the UP, because when I was searching it, most of the projects shows that it is not being implemented only in UP but also in 18 different states. For example, if we talk about there is one project. I'm sorry, I'll open my PPT. So there is the project Shakti that I have mentioned, Hindustan Unilever Limited project. So it is being implemented in the 18 states, and more than 2,000 people, rural women, is being impacted through this project. So it is not particularly on basis of UP, but yes, UP was a hub for all these because rural communities are more over there. For the second question about the technology based, I'm sorry, I am not aware of that. I'm still working on this topic. So, talking about which project I found more relevant while working is the project Shakti, because rural women need to be empowered. There's one case of Chhattisgarh, I remember. Government implemented a project over there and to empower the women. There was a scheme that came, and with that scheme, all of the women learn how to tailor. But the basic gap was everybody know how to use machine and how to make their own clothes. पर सर द थिंग इज कि अगर हर घर में अपने काम खुद करेंगे तो वो कमाएंगे कैसे, बिकॉज एवरीबडी नो कि कपड़े कैसे सिलने हैं. आप भी जानते हो कपड़े कैसे सिलने हैं, आपका नेबर भी जानता है, तो आपको अर्निंग कौन देगा. सो दैट वाज द थिंग. सो दैट्स व्हाई आई फाउंड दैट प्रोजेक्ट शक्ति इज अ गुड इनिशिएटिव बाय HUL.
Okay.
Anyone else? Dr. Senapati, any comments for the presenter? Yeah. Mike, please. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mahima, your work will be enriched because there are a few more suggestions that are coming up. So kindly, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good morning. I'll just introduce myself first. I am Vishal Sinha. I represent Apollo Hospitals Group. Your research and study. So just would like to add, we have been doing a lot of projects funded out of CSR and government funding across the country, including UP and Bihar, where healthcare and education both have been a huge focus area. And the impact, especially post-COVID, has been tremendous. For example, just to give you an example of Bihar, where we have been working since 2016, we have trained close to 3,800 candidates, where our placement percentage has been above 70%. And I have a training center also in Patna. So I'm just sharing these experiences which could be considered good practices. So we have been...
Yes, sir, I'll look into it.
Yeah, so we have been working with entities like HDFC Bank, Siemens and all, and also with Bihar government, where we participate as an implementing partner, and more importantly, we also represent the industry. Since as part of Apollo, we also share our inputs in terms of what could be the ideal models for social impact, what could be the relevant programs where the desired outcomes can be achieved. So in such cases, the outcomes are employment linked. Since you mentioned about the programs related to sewing machine, so that is commonly known as a sewing machine operator course, where people are doing these courses to get gainful employment. So with regard to healthcare, so we have seen huge progress and awareness, which typically is very low in the sector. But interestingly, healthcare remains among the top 3 sectors today in terms of growth, in terms of employment. It's already one of the largest employment generating sectors. And that is one of the reasons why we have been able to connect all these stakeholders, including government, NGOs, industry, which I represent, in creating models which are a win-win model, especially for the rural youth. So just to give an example, the programs which we have done, we have ensured that candidates from close to 30 districts of Bihar have got benefited. But the model is not creating a center in the rural domain, because that also has challenges. So we have created a center in Patna where these students from these districts have been staying in Patna but doing a non-residential program, and also telling them about the feasibility in case the employment is not there in that city, their willingness to move out of Patna also. But we have been fairly successful of late, especially after Medanta has come into the city of Patna. We have noticed a great improvement in the salary also. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Yeah, Professor Senapati has perhaps.
Nice presentation, and you have covered many areas. I see, from biodiversity to socioeconomic aspects. So you presented some case study related to Haryali mission and biodiversity impact, and relating it to CSR. So is there any ground evidence that these things are creating some impact? Like you have visited or taken some photograph, discussed with communities. It is there with you? If you can
No,
highlight.
sir, this is solely a secondary based research, so this is also the limitation of my study.
Okay, so then you can
Yes, sir.
consider this as a suggestion. So
Yes,
because
sir.
that will aid to your paper and your research.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Really appreciate your detailed work and analysis. Next on board, we have a presentation by St. Bagam Raja from KPR College of Arts, Science and Research. And the topic is CSR, Sustainable Development Goal 5, Gender Equality and Significance of LGBTQI Inclusivity in Cutting Edge Society. Also, we'll be joining with Dr. Vinodini from KPR College of Arts, Science and Research via online medium.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Shen Begum. I'm the research scholar of KPR College, Coimbatore, Bharatiyar University from Tamil Nadu. And I do have Dr. Vinodini from KPR College, my supervisor ma'am in KPR College. Today my topic is CSR, Gender Equality, Significance of LGBTQI Inclusivity. Moving on, let me give a quick brief on why do we need gender equality with respect to LGBTQIA. So we all talk about CSR. So what is the CSR is all about? So when we talk about CSR, CSR is all about people, society, and we also have the corporates. So if we are talking about people, environment, society, and how that is getting leveraged with corporate, it's very important to have a unbiased, a neutral society or an universe or a globe or a nation or any kind of space. So keeping that as a context, if we are moving on to the goals of the gender equality, so basically gender equality here is empowering LGBTQI community, recognizing and identifying them in appropriate stages. So what is the use of doing this? I would take this as a credit to talk about various factors that is evolving in the society and how this can be driven thoughtfully to nurture and embrace policies and fragmentations as appropriate. So when we talk about this as part of CSR, it's very important to know how CSR is ethical. So similarly, we also have this inclusivity of this community on an ethical basis and also embrace or adapt or implement appropriate strategies in the modern workplaces as well as in every aspect of the space that we give to the LGBTQIA community. Okay, so the reason of doing this is recognize them, identify the diversity and strengthen our society. So we talk about CSR to strengthen the society, right? It's not about individual. We as society, how do we empower ourselves? So the CSR aspects of improving or empowering LGBTQIA is all about recognizing them, identify them, and include them as part of diversity, inclusivity in diversity, and then strengthen our society. So let's move on to the importance of awareness. So, okay, so okay, so now how do we strengthen this? So why do we have to strengthen this? So this is also part of.
You're not able to see the headlines.
Yes.
Pankaj ji, kindly help. That. Yeah. Yeah. The slide should be visible.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Fix it in such a manner that it is down. We can see. We can also see. For each slide, there is a heading. Okay. Yeah. Come on.
Okay, so the findings that we have as of now in our society which is being exist or persist is all about we need to improvise our learning, our understanding around this and see how we can eliminate the description that we have now. So this is to balance the emotional well-being of the people who are living with us in this particular community to bring them towards the equality. And so this talks about this also emphasizes, this inclusivity also emphasizes inclusive CSR, so which is for a stronger cohesion and innovation for the upliftment of our society. All right, okay. So, next thing is the research methodology. So, why we need to take this for the research? So, what is the research methodology? So, I am talking about or emphasizing hybrid qualitative and quantitative approach. Okay, so research methodology is all about the hybrid qualitative and quantitative approach. So why do we need this research is all about bringing more inferences and analyze and then transform our thoughts into a process legally as well as take it as an adaptation. Then we also check for the cross genders, age and professions, and according to that the sampling is done. And they see importantly here we need to have one thought process always. So this community requires an emotional balance and emphasis on emotional and social realities is what is the focus on this research methodology. Okay, so yeah. So what is the benefit that we have? Before I cover this benefit, I would like to share a thought process around this on why this is coming under CSR and what is the SDG goals that is associated with that. So we are talking about for the benefit of our society, to streamline our society, to empower our society. So in this case, what is really required and what synergy we can bring it here is, what is the grassroots support that we have, what is the data and research organizations that is required for the effective policy and resource allocation, and then how this is crucial for measuring the progress of our SDG targets. So while we talk about this SDG, let us discuss quickly on which aspect of SDG this is coming. So we talk about SDG 5. So when we talk about SDG 5, this is about gender equality. Okay. So when SDG 5 is talking about gender equality and empower the women and girls, this is slightly associated with what I am talking about on LGBTQIA. And when SDG 5 is talking about ending the discrimination, ending the violence, and then eliminate harmful practices, value for the paid and unpaid work, ensure participation, and then reproductive health. So in these reasons, these are associated with SDG 5. Okay, so now exactly where is this coming under the SDG goals? So we have sustainable development goals. how this is important to us and where this is covered. SDG 5 is associated as part of our 2030 sustainable development. And if we talk about, there is one more thing where we are talking about SDG 10. So SDG 10 goal is all about reduced inequality. So the topic which I am talking about, LGBTQIA inclusivity, is all about this as well. In by 2030, empower and promote social and economic political inclusions. So this is with respect to the sex, disability, race, ethnicity, origin and other status. So this also emphasizes equal opportunity and reduce inequalities of outcome. So while we do that, and this is where the graph shows what is our benefits. So when we are inclusive, so we are talking about unity in diversity from the day of our independence, and before that as well, we are talking about unity. So when we talk about unity, then we must also know what is inclusivity of LGBTQIA, and the inclusive benefits are 76% with respect to productivity of a society or with respect to a corporate. And corporates are where we have massive people or huge people or groups of people working and incorporating pride policies. LGBTQIA policies are pretty much emphasized at the corporate level, and then that will be leveraged at the social level as well. And then we still have the non-discrimination policy is 98%, and then trans health coverage is 91%, and then the support practices is 83%. So the corporates are adopting this kind of an inclusive strategy in order to improve the welfare or empower the community. Moving on to the metrics. So I already discussed about that. So we'll sure. So we also
2 more minutes.
Yes, yes, sir, sure. So we also have, we talked about the benefits, whatever. Let's also see this, chart where, workplace LGBTQIA inclusion is all about employee experience, right? So in a working place or in the academia sector, how these are all taken or considered. So you can see this, statistics, and there are a lot of areas, or there are a lot of, forwards that we need to bring it here as part of way forward. So that needs to be emphasized, or that needs to be empowered. Okay. So where is this index coming in? So this index is all the collective statistics from Campaign Corporate Equality Index 2025. That is related to Human Rights Campaign Corporate Equality Index, and we derive a lot of insight from them, and we can also leverage the technologies as appropriate in promoting the welfare, particularly the mental welfare of LGBTQI community. And here inclusion is the commitment in India in the workplace, and that's the benchmark for every organization, and India is kind of progressing forward on that, and it's very important that we need to do a deep dive in getting into all spectrums of workplace and other spaces in our community. Then role of CSR, as I was talking about, the role of CSR here promotes the fairness, equity and workplace harmony. Workplace harmony is where we are earning, and we are earning for the betterment of family and for our own comfort, and promoting the fairness in the workplace and in all spaces where the community is living. We need to empower that, and this is aligned with the human rights. Importantly, role of CSR aligns with the human rights SDG frameworks and gives voice to the marginalized communities. So we are talking about poverty, we are talking about various other spectrums for empowerment, and this is also an important factor for consideration, and we can do a bias-free hiring and promoting analytics, and anonymous grievances needs to be taken care, and digital platforms can be leveraged. Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity. You can read. My name is Shen Begum. Shen Begum Raja jd@gmail.com is my mail ID. You can reach out to me for any questions around this. I can do a deep dive if required as appropriate. Thank you once again for the opportunity.
So, I do have questions, but before the questions, I have some remarks to make. One is, you are claiming that it is a study that you have done, but I could not see who are your respondents and what is the research framework that you have used. So all that is missing from the concept paper that I have received, as well as the presentation that you made. So again, the matrix and the percentages that you have brought out are the part of some empirical work that you did. If at all you did the empirical work, who were your respondents, which corporates you went to? So those are glaringly missing in the presentation. So that keeping that in mind, I have just a few questions, and these are like very pointed questions. One is, how did you arrive at those percentages? That is one. Second is that you have mixed a lot of other socio parameters in your presentation. You are basing it on LGBTQIA and the queer community, but at the same time you are also talking about the race, ethnicities, and other social parameters. So it is not giving like a very clear indication into what your research is all about. So yeah, if you can just answer one question of mine, which is, where did you get those percentages from? And if you look into the pie chart that you have made, there are two percentages which are actually mentioned. So which percent are you actually talking about? The one within the circle, one outside the circle?
Okay. Thank you for the great question, sir. So first of all, I have taken this statics on my implementation, whatever I have done as part of a Pride initiative in Accenture, Wipro, and Infosys, these three organizations. And I took this based on how how I have done the promotion or a kind of inclusivity work, and that's where I got this. Of course, I do understand that this needs to be improvised in terms of uplifting and making much more progress on that. But this is the kind of initial work that I have done to get these details. And this I have to do a deep dive on this to get much more metrics in an illustrative way for empowerment. And the second, to answer your second question, I am focusing on this reduced inequalities. So basically, this is to address the LGBTQIA empowerment, and the reason why I'm associating this with various other social parameters is that it is not a person who is living alone. We are living in a society, and there are social parameters that needs to be considered. And this particular topic is falling under two SDG topics, and that's where many other social elements are also present, which requires attention. And I'm interested to do a much more detailed study on this to see how we can bring more improvements for a sustained society, sir. Hope that answers.
Thank you, thank you. Initially, I got this impression that perhaps it's a proposal that your Professor Rajdan has actually said. So you need to develop it to a great extent before you actually want it to be published somewhere as a decent kind of research work. The data that you have captured, what the corporates are doing. So because you are mixing lot many things, and CSR is not only your personal job, like corporates are involved, so how they are responding to this. So you need to question them, you need to meet the community, the impact that they have felt. So lots of work is actually required.
Yes.
We'll just go through it so you'll understand that at least we need to capture those data, because that is the difficulty which I also felt, that from where you have received those data, the sources were not mentioned. Then I actually understood that perhaps you are representing the data of Human Rights Campaign Corporate Index or what. So that was one impression which I got.
Okay.
So anyways, you have made this effort and we appreciate it. But as far as our impressions are concerned, so we'll just like to suggest that develop it more.
Sure, sir.
Then only it will be a decent kind of work,
Okay.
worthwhile for the scholarship, scholars and scholarship kind of activity.
Sure, sir.
Yes, sir.
Certainly, sir. Okay.
Anyone else who would like to comment on the scholars' work? No. Then we can. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone once again for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we are moving to the online segment. The topic is influence of parental encouragement on the self-esteem of adolescents, and it is presented by Dr. Vinderjeet Kaur from Baba Farid College of Education, Bhatinda. Dr. Vinderjeet Kaur, are you online? Ask him to unmute now. Okay. Offline. Now the next presentation is from Amit CA from Finland Jain Initiative, Patna and Delhi, and the topic is financial literacy and compliance prevention. So I like to call Amit CA. So please have on the stage.
Hello everyone, very good morning. First of all, thank you to CIMP team to give me an opportunity to share insight on financial literacy and compliance awareness. Myself, Amit Kumar, a chartered accountant. My case study is based on ground reality. So after engaging with more than 5,000 individuals, small, medium enterprises, students, through workshops and through mentorship, and I got to know that we are not struggling because we lack financial access. We are struggling because we lack financial capability. So why this paper is destined? Actually, sometimes we know about financial literacy, but this study shows that only teaching is not sufficient. We have to implement and work on an execution level also. So this is the outcome of 5,000 plus individuals through digital outreach and through sessions. I got to know that people have an idea, but how to implement it. So there is a gap. Actually, India is a youngest country all over the world, and we are here in Bihar. Bihar is the youngest state in our country, right? And if you talk about financial literacy, we have less than 20% financial literacy in Bihar. So more than 80% people are not aware about basic financial literacy. And if we are not aware about financial literacy, then it's not a question about compliance, because compliance is far move beyond the financial literacy. Right. So how many of you using UPI based payment system? Yeah, I think everyone, right? So adoption is very high, but is there any formal training provided to you guys on how to be safe, how to be safe when scammers attempted you to get that? They are basically trying to cut your money. So do you guys have formal trained that how to use UPI and how to use any other applications? No. And in the same way, as a youth or as a young state, even we are not aware about investment patterns and how to make investments with a very small amount if we are students, right? So even when I started my mentorship to startup founders, so I got to know that they have startup registration, but
Ma'am, you need to hold. Actually, someone else is presenting right now.
So in digital era, everyone using smartphones and UPI based applications and making payments on a daily basis through these applications, right? So scammers are also they are looking at your transactions. So how many of you in last 6 months attempted by a scammer through on a call or on a OTP or text? Because even a chartered accountants are also getting calls from scammers. Last week I got a call from a person who were calling me and telling me that सर मैं इनकम टैक्स से बोल रहा हूँ, आपको हम बहुत सारे नोटिसेस दे रहे हैं बट आपका रिप्लाई नहीं आ रहा है. तो अभी कॉल पे ही हमने आपको व्हाट्सएप पे एक फ़ाइल भेज दी है, जल्दी से आप उसे ओपन कीजिए और नोटिस का अभी के अभी जवाब दीजिए. इज़ दैट वे टू आंसर एनी इनकम टैक्स नोटिसेस, और इज़ द डिपार्टमेंट कॉलिंग टू अस लाइक दिस? It means they are scammer attempted to get threatened by using the name of income tax or any CBI or any regulatory authority, right? Then I replied कि बॉस मैं चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हूँ. तो फिर उसने कॉल डिस्कनेक्ट किया. Like after interaction with small medium enterprises, I got to know that even they don't have access how to get a loan from banks at a lowest rate, and they are getting fund from local lenders with a very high interest rate. These are the basic awareness gap, how that they don't know how to work on paper so that paper will become a power for them. So what is the findings? So first finding is financial decisions are emotional, not informed. Even when we talk about financial decision, we are not making proper research on that, even regarding investments and regarding we are making the expenses without any planning, right? So compliance is perceived as fear. Like when I reach to the person, why you are not registering your business in MSME, they told me that हमें नोटिस आ जाएगा अगर हम SME में रजिस्ट्रेशन ले लेंगे, अगर हम GST में जाएंगे तो GST के नोटिसेज आएगा. Then I asked a simple question, have you ever got a notice from income tax department while you got your PAN card? We are aware that we are having PAN card, we are having Aadhaar card, but we are not getting notices. But when we are talking about registering the businesses at MSME portal or getting the registration through tax portal, so there is a fear to get some notices. So now finding 3, digital adoption is high but digital safety is low. Like as we already discussed that everyone is using UPI platform, but there is no formal training and there is no how to save ourselves. Even educated, well-qualified persons get trapped through scammers, whether it is mode of on a call or a text. इवन आजकल हर कोई डिलीवरी ऐप्स यूज़ करता है, और उसमें भी उन्होंने इजी वे ढूंढ लिया है कि सर OTP आया होगा, मैं आपको डिलीवर करने आया हूँ कोई सामान. और उस टाइम माइंड उनकी सोशल इंजीनियरिंग इज़ अ वेरी strong, they are very strong in social engineering, so they made you feel that yes, you have ordered something, even we have not made any order and we are just telling their OTP, right? So the finding for startup, innovate fast but formalize slow. Like in most some of the startups get failed at pitch desk because they don't have a formal financials presentation or a financial models so that they can explain how they will utilize money, and even after getting funding also they are not utilizing fund in a proper way, so that they are lacking further fund to pursue their operations. Now these case study based on a ground reality or ground observation. So now case study 1 is MSME compliance loss. A small manufacturing unit just lost lakhs of GST credit because they don't know how to use that input tax credit, right? Even they have professionals working with them, but now there is a gap with that professionals and MSME business owners, that professionals are supposed to educate the business owners, but they are actually not, because of many reasons, time scarcity or due to low paying clients, that might be a problem. Now case study 2, UPI phishing, youth cyber fraud. So ये जो फ्रॉडस्टर्स होते हैं वो यूथ को बहुत ज़्यादा टारगेट कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज यूथ सबसे ज़्यादा UPI ट्रांजेक्शन्स कर रहे हैं. Now case study 3, start of funding rejection, that is the same, that they got rejection while they are making pitch decks because they don't have a proper financial projections and how to build their businesses with the idea. Even they have idea validation, but how to implement it, there is a financial strong financials required. Even when I started mentorship to the startup founders, I got some common questions like, sir, in starting phase we don't have a advisor who can advise us how to use the fund in a proper way and a cost effective manner. Yes, we have a professionals who can guide us in tax compliances and audit and all different, but we need a professionals who can guide how to use that fund in a proper way. So financial advisory is also a missing point. So if you talk about role of CSR, like there is a SDG 1, no poverty. So without financial sustainability, we can't imagine overall development of the society. So the net objective is to make money in a very ethical manner. So we must aware how to make money. Even we are doing our study or we are doing our businesses for making money, but with the even in a ethical manner, it is important, right? So SDG 5 is women empowerment. How can we empower women if they are not financially stable? So finance is everywhere. SDG 8, decent work and economic growth. SDG 10, reduced inequalities. SDG 16, strong institutions. So what is the role of CSR? CSR is, yes, there are so many organizations are working which is aligned with CSR, that they are on financial literacy, some are working on digital awareness, but there is a missing point, is integration between financial integration, compliance awareness, and that is the implementation phase. At a implementation, these are the based on like study based only. So youth financial literacy, MSME compliance camps, women entrepreneurs, financial empowerment, school level digital safety programs. So startup financials readiness, these are the role of CSR. So financial literacy is not just about money, it is about dignity, protection and opportunity. That is why it belongs at the center of CSR. So proposed 5-layer financial readiness framework. First one is awareness layer. In that layer, awareness, basic financial understanding, basic tax understanding or UPI safety covers. Now second one is skill layer. Okay, second one is skill layer, and the third is guidance layer, fourth is digital safety layer, and fifth is community layer. So to conclude, financial literacy strengths individuals. Together these three pillar supports a resilient, responsible and inclusive economy. So if you want sustainable development, safe digital participation and a confident entrepreneurs or business owners or medium enterprises, small enterprises is required. So we must place financial capacity building at the core of CSR practice. Okay, thank you. Thank you guys. That's all.
Thanks, Amit. You have completed well within time. Thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
So your comments.
Okay, Mr. Amit, thanks for the presentation. This is one of the mandates of the CSR policy as well, where they are being asked to see to it that the financial inclusion, financial footprint increases amongst the population which is not connected with the formal financial institutions. So you have made a good attempt in that.
Thank you,
So
sir.
I have 2 quick points and then I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So you actually are beginning with your understanding on the financial literacy, which is more to do with the financial safeguarding of the
Yes,
poor
sir.
people, those who are getting connected through internet-based services, and they are very gullible, vulnerable to get defrauded by the scamsters.
Yes, sir.
Having said that, CSR policy so far, the common understanding is more to do with the financial inclusion rather than to safeguard the people from financial fraud.
Yes, sir.
So your argumentation is coming towards the latter part of the presentation, where you are looking into how the CSR can save these people from the possible scamming. So there is some kind of a confusion in the presentation that I could not also clarify for myself.
Okay.
If you can just dwell a bit on that, are you looking at CSR to include more and more people into the financial ecosystem?
Yes, sir. Actually,
Let me just complete.
Yes.
Are you looking into that aspect, or are you looking into those to save the people from getting defrauded? That is one.
Yes.
Second point is that you have based your entire presentation on the 5,000 individuals. Are they the clients that you have worked with, or are they part of your research whom you went and you interacted with? So some insight on who these people were.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So first one is, yes, that safety from fraudulent activities is also part of, to be included in part of CSR. And the second one is those 5,000 plus individuals which covered from workshops and mentorship session I given to the startup founders at B Hub of CIMP also, and now going to NIIT Patna at B Hub also, and different women colleges also like JD Women's College and Birla Institute of Technology also. And through my digital outreach, I have a YouTube channel where I have more than 6,000 plus subscribers. So where these are the MSME business owners, and I got queries from all over India, not only from Bihar. So I just got that observation through these comment sections and that calling sections also. Yep.
Yeah, Amit, again, spirited kind of presentation. You're enthusiastic. I saw yesterday also you attended the sessions and other things.
Yes.
A more structured presentation would have been better, because in conferences that is what we expect.
Okay, sir.
And that the point that you raised is very, very relevant, even for me as an individual, since I'm a learned kind of guy. I won't say learned, but then I'm a satisfied kind of guy, so I'm not tempted for money offers and other kind of offers, so I do not fall in the trap. But otherwise, generally people fall, so that's an important. But if you can give it a better structure, or it's better. But that's why Sir asked that who are these respondents, and collecting data in a structured format will do more justice to a conference. To the participants, PGB participants sitting here, I want to make one point: settle down. That is first thing. The conference is something serious. Second, that even in your SIP, you will be facing similar kind of situation wherein you will be required to come up with a very structured kind of SIP report. And you will be working with firms. So similar situation that he is having information, lots of information, a very valid kind of work which he is doing, but we are expecting a very structured kind of output at the end of the term when you return by June end or July first week, whatever, after 2 months of SIP. So these things are going to be relevant there. You will be making similar efforts that time. So a kind of literature review will be required, and very structured kind of presentation is required. So when you are sitting in the this auditorium, feel connected. Fine. And just settle down there, because making too much of movements is not so good. That personally I do not enjoy much. Sir, any other comments for the scholar from the audience and other people? Yeah. Take the mic, yeah. Sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Do you find any role for financial institutions or banks in increasing the financial literacy, which in turn will protect them against the cyber frauds? Have
Yes,
you?
sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, banks has like HDFC and Kotak Bank, even SBI also, they have financial literacy programs. But there is a missing link, like they are teaching, but at the implementation level, there is a compliance awareness and execution. At the execution level, how to do it, they are basically teaching these are the factors or these are the things which they are attempted through fraudsters. But the live examples and live cases are missing, I think so. Yep. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shain Begum. I have a question.
Yes, sure.
So, regarding the empowerment financially, how do we equip our society, particularly with respect to a state, on creating more and more awareness with kind of retreat programs or some kind of a program to improve this? Because end of the day, everything falls under the financial stability, right? We talk about CSR, where we are associating and uplifting the people across our society. So, any thoughts around this from your end, sir?
At a district level or a local level is required. As I went to the rural area where the person told me that we are getting fund from local lenders, right, with a very high rate of interest, and they are collecting money on daily basis. These are the rural area, and they are not aware, and even they asked me there is a formal program at a district level so that we can empower ourselves, even at the women empowerment and different areas. So I realized that yes, this is the missing at a different. So we recommend to the CSR authorities or panelists, they can do it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Yeah. You are in demand today.
Yes.
Yeah. Mike.
Good morning, sir. Sir,
Good morning.
we are a DPIT registered startup based in Patliputra, Patna.
Okay.
So we have developed world's first smart ring with calling features, health tracking with a screen in it, and SOS features. So for this research activities and marketing, we were trying to raise funds from various institutions. So what problems we face that one fund is from central government, that is SISF seed fund grant, 20 lakhs grant. The second one is that Bihar government provides 10 lakhs seed grant. Okay, and there are other funding facilities from banks as well, like Mudra and MSME loans.
Right.
But what we face that in SISF, if speaking about SISF, the funds are not with incubators. They are not available. They have all used all their funds, all incubators pan India. Secondly,
No. One intervention.
Yeah.
Any comment on his work? Because you can discuss this. I will have a tea break just after
Yeah,
this.
we can discuss
So
that.
we can
in
discuss.
detail.
definitely,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because you have got valid questions, so that will be addressed.